Jiwoo wiped the sweat from her forehead as she walked through the crowded market. The trading station on Helios 7 was always hot and noisy. Hundreds of aliens from different planets came here to buy and sell things. The air smelled like strange spices and engine fuel. Jiwoo had been coming here for 5 years now, hauling cargo from one world to another. She knew how to keep her head down and mind her own business. Today she needed fuel cells. Her ship was almost empty, and the next trading post was 3 days away. She stopped at a vendor who had rows of blue energy cells stacked on his table. The vendor was a short alien with 4 arms and green skin. They started talking about the price. That was when the screaming started. Jiwoo turned around and saw people running in every direction. A group of huge aliens was pushing through the crowd. They were Valthek warriors, each one nearly 3 meters tall with thick armor covering their bodies. Their skin was dark red, and they carried weapons that crackled with energy. Everyone knew the Valthek. They were hunters and fighters, and they did not like being told no. "Move aside," one of the warriors shouted. His voice was so deep it made Jiwoo's chest vibrate. "We hunt stolen property." Jiwoo pressed herself against a wall as the warriors stomped past. She saw what they were chasing. A small creature ran between the market stalls, knocking over boxes and sliding under tables. It was a Relthani cub, probably not older than a human child of 7 or 8 years. The Relthani were thin and fragile-looking, with large black eyes and skin that seemed almost transparent. This little one was terrified. The cub scrambled toward Jiwoo, its small chest heaving as it tried to breathe. Behind it, the lead Valthek warrior raised his weapon. It was a long pike that glowed with deadly energy. Jiwoo knew what that weapon could do. She had seen it cut through metal like paper. The warrior aimed at the cub. Jiwoo did not think. Her body moved before her brain could catch up. She threw herself forward, putting her body between the weapon and the child. The energy blast hit her square in the chest. The pain was like nothing she had ever felt. It was fire and ice and lightning all at once. Jiwoo flew backward and crashed into a pile of crates. She heard something crack inside her chest. The world went fuzzy and gray. She tried to breathe, but her lungs would not work properly. Through the haze, she saw the little Relthani cub staring at her with huge, shocked eyes. Then everything went dark. When Jiwoo woke up, she was not in the market anymore. The ceiling above her was white and smooth. Machines beeped quietly around her. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her entire body. A gentle hand pushed her back down. "Please do not move," a soft voice said. "You are badly hurt." Jiwoo turned her head slowly. Relthani stood beside her bed. This one was an adult, taller than the cub, but still thin and delicate. The alien's large eyes looked at her with something Jiwoo could not quite understand. Was it sadness? Wonder? Fear? The child? Jiwoo managed to whisper. Her throat felt like sandpaper. "Lyra is safe," the Relthani said. "Because of you. She is my daughter." More Relthani entered the room. 6 of them surrounded Jiwoo's bed. They each reached out and touched their foreheads to her hands. The gesture was slow and careful, almost like a ceremony. Jiwoo had no idea what it meant, but she could feel that it was important. One of the older Relthani spoke in a language Jiwoo did not understand. The words sounded like music rising and falling in strange patterns. A small device on the wall crackled to life and translated. "You are now Kathera," the translation said. "The shield heart. You are written into our memory. We will never forget what you did for our child." Jiwoo wanted to say it was nothing, just instinct, but the words would not come out. The pain medicine was pulling her back towards sleep. The last thing she saw was the little cub, Lyra, peeking around the doorway. The child's eyes were still wide with wonder. The next time Jiwoo woke up, a human doctor was checking her vital signs. He smiled when he saw her eyes open. "You are one lucky woman," he said. "That blast should have killed you. Your ribs absorbed most of it, and your sternum cracked instead of shattering. If you were Relthani, you would be dead. Their bones are like crystal, beautiful but brittle. Your human bones saved your life." "Great," Jiwoo muttered. "How long was I out?" 2 days. The Relthani medical team worked with us to heal you. They used some kind of tissue repair technology I have never seen before. You will hurt for a while, but you will be fine." The doctor paused and looked at her seriously. "Do you know what you did out there?" "The Relthani are talking about nothing else. They cannot stop talking about the human who took a death blow for one of their children." Jiwoo closed her eyes. She did not want to be talked about. She did not want to be special. She just wanted to get her fuel cells and leave the station. But when she opened her eyes again, little Lyra was sitting in a chair beside her bed. The cub was holding something in her small hands. It was a crystal, glowing faintly with inner light. "For you," Lyra said in broken human language. "Thank you for saving Lyra." Jiwoo reached out slowly and took the crystal. It was warm in her hand, and somehow she knew it was precious. She looked at the child and saw something that made her throat tight. Hope, trust, love. "You are welcome, little one," Jiwoo said softly. She did not know it yet. But that moment would change everything, not just for her but for entire worlds. The story of the human who became Cathara was just beginning, and it would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. 3 months had passed since the incident at Helios 7. Jiwoo stood on a balcony overlooking a city unlike anything she had ever seen. The buildings of Reltus Prime were made of the same crystalline material as the gift Lyra had given her. They caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the streets below. The Relthani moved through their city in graceful patterns, like a slow dance that everyone knew the steps to. Jiwoo was supposed to be gone by now. She had planned to leave the station as soon as she could walk. But Lyra's family had asked her to come to their homeworld to finish her recovery. They had been so sincere, so hopeful, that Jiwoo had not been able to say no. "That was 3 months ago. You are thinking too much again," a voice said behind her. Jiwoo turned to see Tae-hyun walking onto the balcony. He was a human xenoanthropologist, someone who studied alien cultures. He had been living with the Relthani for 2 years, and had become Jiwoo's guide and friend. He was young, maybe 25, with an easy smile and endless curiosity about everything. "Just wondering when I can leave," Jiwoo said. "You are healing well. The doctors say another week, maybe 2. Taehyun leaned on the railing beside her. "But I do not think your body is why you are still here." "What do you mean?" "Lyra follows you everywhere. She asks you a million questions every day, and you answer every single one." Taehyun smiled. "You could tell her to leave you alone, but you do not." Jiwoo did not answer. It was true. The little Relthani cub had attached herself to Jiwoo like a shadow. She wanted to know everything about humans. What did they eat? Why were their bones so strong? Did all humans jump in front of weapons to save strangers? Jiwoo tried to explain that no, most humans did not do that, but Lyra did not seem to believe her. "The council wants to meet with you today," Taehyun said, his voice more serious now. "Elder Vesh, Lyra's grandmother, has been asking about you. What do they want?" "To understand." "Jiwoo, what you did has shaken their entire society. The Relthani have studied every spacefaring species for centuries. They understand psychology and evolution. But they cannot understand why you saved Lyra. I saw a child in danger. It was instinct. That is what you keep saying. But the Relthani do not have that instinct. Not for strangers, and especially not for aliens." Taehyun looked at her seriously. Their ancestors were prey animals. For millions of years, their survival depended on running and hiding. Self-sacrifice for someone outside their family group would have meant death. It never evolved in them. They love their own children fiercely, but the idea of dying for a stranger's child is alien to them. "But I am human, not Relthani." "Exactly, and that is what they are trying to understand. What made humans different? Why do humans sometimes sacrifice themselves for strangers?" Taehyun paused. "They call it the study of Cathara. Hundreds of researchers are analyzing human history, psychology, and biology. They want to know what made you do what you did." Jiwoo felt uncomfortable. She did not like being studied like a specimen. But before she could say anything, Lyra came running onto the balcony. The cub was carrying a data pad, her thin arms barely able to hold it. "Jiwoo! Jiwoo, look!" Lyra held up the pad. On it was a drawing of a human figure standing in front of a small Relthani. "I made this for you." Jiwoo took the pad and looked at the drawing. It was simple but clear. The human had arms spread wide, protecting the child behind them. Something about it made Jiwoo's chest feel tight. "It is very good, Lyra," Jiwoo said softly. "Grandmother says you will meet the council today. I asked if I could come too, but she said no." Lyra's large eyes looked sad. "Will you tell me what they say?" "I will tell you," Jiwoo promised. The council chamber was a huge circular room with a domed ceiling made of clear crystal. 12 Relthani elders sat in a circle, and Jiwoo stood in the center. Elder Vesh, Lyra's grandmother, was the oldest. Her skin had a faint silver shimmer to it, a sign of great age among her people. "Cathara," Elder Vesh said, using the title they had given Jiwoo. "We thank you for meeting with us. We have questions that trouble our hearts." "I will answer what I can," Jiwoo said. Another elder spoke. His name was Wrath, and his voice was higher than Vesh's. "We have studied your species for many cycles. We know humans can be violent. You have wars. You fight each other. This we understand. But we do not understand why you saved Lyra. You had never met her. She was not your kin. Why did you risk your life?" Jiwoo thought about how to answer. "I did not think about it. I just acted. I saw a child about to die and I could stop it. So I did. But you could have died," another elder said. "Your logical brain knew this. Yet you acted anyway. This seems like madness to us." "Maybe it is," Jiwoo said. "But I could not live with myself if I had just watched. That would hurt me more than any weapon." The elders spoke among themselves in their musical language. Finally, Elder Vesh spoke again. "Some of us believe your action proves humans could be powerful allies. A species that protects the weak could help us defend our colonies. Others fear humans are too reckless, too willing to throw away life. They say your violence and your sacrifice are two sides of the same coin. What do you believe?" Jiwoo asked. "I believe you saved my granddaughter's life," Vesh said simply. "And I believe the galaxy needs more people willing to stand between danger and the innocent. But I am old and perhaps I am a fool." Before Jiwoo could respond, a young Relthani rushed into the chamber. His musical speech was rapid and frightened. Tae-hyun, who had been waiting outside, came in with him. His face was pale. "What is it?" Jiwoo asked. "The Valthek," Tae-hyun said. "They have issued a formal challenge. They say you interfered with their lawful hunt. They demand the Relthani hand you over to face Valthek justice, or they will impose sanctions on Relthos Prime. If the Relthani refuse, the Valthek are threatening military action." The chamber went silent. Jiwoo felt her stomach drop. The Relthani had no military. They had never needed one. Their treaties and their value to other species had always protected them. But treaties meant nothing if the Valthek decided to attack. "This is because of me," Jiwoo said quietly. "I brought this trouble to your world." "No," Elder Vesh said firmly. "You brought hope to our world. The Valthek bring trouble. We will not hand you over to them. But they will hurt your people. Then we must find another way." Vesh looked at Jiwoo with those large, ancient eyes. "You showed us that sometimes the right choice is not the safe choice. Now we must be brave enough to follow that lesson." Jiwoo left the council chamber with Tae-hyun. Her mind was racing. The Valthek were dangerous and they did not make empty threats. If they attacked Relthos Prime, thousands of Relthani could die, all because she saved one child. "There has to be a solution," Jiwoo said. "I am looking into it," Tae-hyun said. "The Valthek have complex honor codes. Maybe there is something in their laws that can help us." That night, Jiwoo sat alone in her room, holding the crystal Lyra had given her. It still glowed faintly in the dark. Through her window she could see the beautiful crystal city. Somewhere out there, Lyra was probably asleep, safe and happy. Jiwoo had saved one life, but now thousands of lives were at risk. She wondered if the Relthani would still call her Cathara, the shield heart, when her presence brought war to their doorstep. The human diplomatic ship arrived 3 days after the Valthek threat. Jiwoo watched it land from the same balcony where she had talked with Tae-hyun. The ship was sleek and gray with the Earth Alliance symbol painted on its side. Jiwoo had not seen that symbol in years. It made her feel strange, like she was looking at something from a past life. Ambassador Yuna Pak was a tall woman with sharp eyes and perfect posture. She wore a formal diplomatic uniform and carried herself like someone who was used to being in charge. When she entered the meeting room where Jiwoo waited, she did not waste time with pleasantries. "Ms. Jiwoo," she said, sitting down across from her, "you have created quite a situation." "I saved a child's life," Jiwoo said. "You did. And now the Valthek Dominion is threatening one of humanity's most important trade partners. Do you understand what the Relthani provide to the galaxy? Their mathematical models make faster-than-light travel possible. Without them, half the trade routes would fail. If the Valthek attack them, it will destabilize the entire sector." Jiwoo felt anger rising in her chest. "So what do you want me to do? Apologize for not letting a child die?" Yuna's expression did not change. "I want you to understand the bigger picture. Sometimes in diplomacy we must make uncomfortable choices for the greater good." "The greater good," Jiwoo repeated flatly. "You want me to say I was wrong?" I want you to help me find a solution that does not end in war. Yuna leaned forward slightly. The Valthek respect strength and honor. If you publicly acknowledge that you interfered with their hunt and show remorse, they might accept that as enough. No, Jiwoo said. Excuse me? No, I will not apologize for saving Lyra. If they want me, they can come and take me. But I will not say I was wrong. Yuna stared at her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled just a little. I thought you might say that. You are stubborn. That will either save us or doom us. The door opened and Tae-hyun rushed in, carrying a datapad. His eyes were bright with excitement. I found something. In the Valthek honor codes, there is a way. Yuna turned to him. Explain. Tae-hyun set the pad on the table. The Valthek have a tradition called trial by worthiness. If someone is accused of dishonorable action, they can prove their honor was true by facing 3 tests. If they pass, the accusation is erased. The matter is closed forever. What kind of tests? Jiwoo asked. The records are not entirely clear. Each trial is different, designed for the person being tested, but they are always difficult. No human has ever attempted one, Yuna frowned. And if she fails? Then the Valthek judgment stands and Jiwoo would be subject to their punishment. Tae-hyun looked at Jiwoo seriously. It is dangerous, but it is a chance. Where does the trial happen? Jiwoo asked. On Valthos. The Valthek homeworld. Jiwoo thought about it. Going to the Valthek homeworld was insane, but staying here meant the Relthani faced sanctions or worse. She thought about Lyra's large eyes, about the Crystal City, about Elder Vesh's words. Sometimes the right choice is not the safe choice. I will do it, Jiwoo said. Yuna studied her carefully. Are you certain? The Valthek homeworld is harsh. Their gravity is heavier than Earth's. The air is thinner. And if you fail, there is no diplomatic protection I can offer. I am certain. 2 days later, Jiwoo stood in the landing bay preparing to board a military transport. Captain Hee-won, who commanded the human defense ship Steadfast, would pilot her to Valthos. The captain was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s with short hair and scars on her hands from years of service. I have never been to Valthos, Hee-won said as they walked to the ship. I have fought Valthek raiders, though. They are tough and mean. You sure about this? No, Jiwoo admitted. But I am going anyway. Lyra came running across the landing bay. Elder Vesh and Tae-hyun were with her. The little Relthani threw her arms around Jiwoo's waist. Do not go, Lyra said, her voice muffled against Jiwoo's stomach. Please do not go. I am scared. Jiwoo knelt down so she was eye level with the cub. I have to go, little one. But I will come back. I promise. How do you know? Because I am not done teaching you about humans yet. You still have too many questions. Jiwoo smiled, trying to be brave for the child. And I want to hear you play that crystal flute your mother is teaching you. Lyra pulled something from her pocket. It was another crystal, smaller than the first one. This one was carved with strange symbols that seemed to shift in the light. This is you, Lyra said. This is the math that describes what you did. Mother helped me make it. It is how we will remember you always. Jiwoo took the crystal and held it tight. Thank you, Lyra. I will keep it safe. Elder Vesh stepped forward and placed her thin hand on Jiwoo's shoulder. You walk into danger for us. This is the second time you have stood between harm and my family. We will not forget, Cathara. The journey to Valthos took 4 days. The ship was small and cramped, but Jiwoo did not mind. She spent most of the time exercising and preparing mentally. Captain Hee-won told her stories about the Valthek she had encountered. They valued strength above all else, but they also respected courage and honor. They did not like liars or cowards. On the 3rd day, another ship docked with theirs. Jiwoo was surprised when a Valthek came aboard. He was young for his species, maybe equivalent to a human in their 20s. His armor was less decorated than the warriors Jiwoo had seen at Helios 7. I am Kale, the Valthek said in rough but understandable human language. I am here to help you. Help me? Jiwoo asked. Why would you help me? Kale's eyes, which were a deep orange color, looked troubled. Because the clan leader who accused you is not acting with honor. He uses your case to gain political power. Many of us see this, but we cannot speak against him openly. If you pass the trial by worthiness, it will expose his dishonor. What can you tell me about the trial? Captain Hee-won asked. There are 3 tests, Kale said. Body, spirit, and truth. Each one tests a different part of your character. I cannot tell you exactly what will happen. Each trial is unique. But I can tell you this. Many Valthek fail these tests. You will need to be strong in ways you have never been before. That night, Jiwoo lay in her bunk, unable to sleep. She held both crystals Lyra had given her. They glowed softly in the darkness like small stars. She thought about the little Relthani cub who had somehow become so important to her. She thought about Elder Vesh and Taehyun, about the beautiful crystal city she might never see again. She thought about the moment in the market when she threw herself in front of that energy pike. She had not thought about it then. She had just acted. Now she had time to think, and doubt crept in. What if she was not strong enough? What if she failed and brought shame to humanity? What if the Valthek killed her? But then she remembered Lyra's voice. Thank you for saving Lyra. Jiwoo closed her eyes and held on to that memory. Whatever happened on Valthos, she would face it. She had to. Not for humanity or diplomacy or politics. For a little girl who believed Jiwoo was brave. The next morning, they entered Valthos orbit. Through the viewport, Jiwoo could see a red and orange planet covered in volcanoes and lava flows. It looked angry, like the planet itself wanted to fight. Welcome to Valthos, Hyewan said quietly. May whatever gods you believe in protect you. Jiwoo took a deep breath and prepared to descend into hell. The heat hit Jiwoo like a physical blow when she stepped off the ship. Valthos was hot, much hotter than Earth or Reltos Prime. The air was thin and smelled like sulfur. In the distance, she could see volcanoes spewing orange lava into a dark red sky. This was not a planet meant for comfort. It was a planet that made its people strong or killed them. A group of Valthek warriors waited at the landing pad. They were even more impressive up close than Jiwoo remembered. Each one was nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick scales and battle scars. They looked at her with expressions that were hard to read. Curiosity? Contempt? Both? One of them stepped forward. He was older than the others, with white markings on his armor that suggested high rank. I am Commander Rax. You are the human who claims honor in saving the weak one? I saved a child, Jiwoo said, trying to keep her voice steady. I claim nothing except that my action was right. Rax made a sound that might have been a laugh. We will see. Follow me. They walked through the Valthek city. The buildings were made of dark stone and metal, built to withstand the harsh environment. Everything looked functional, nothing decorative. Valthek warriors moved through the streets with purpose. Jiwoo noticed that many of them stopped to watch her pass. A human on Valthos was rare. A human coming for trial by worthiness was almost unheard of. The trial arena was a massive circular building made of black volcanic rock. Inside, 7 elderly Valthek sat on high seats looking down at the center of the arena. These were the witness circle, the judges who would decide if Jiwoo's actions were truly honorable. In the highest seat sat Warlord Draxus, the supreme leader of the Valthek people. He was ancient, his scales faded to gray, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. When he spoke, everyone listened. Human Jiwoo. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. You stand accused of interfering with a lawful Valthek hunt. You claim your actions were honorable. We will test this claim with 3 trials: body, spirit, truth. You may refuse at any time and accept punishment instead. Do you understand? I understand, Jiwoo said. Then let the first trial begin. A massive door opened on one side of the arena. A Valthek warrior walked out, younger and stronger than the others Jiwoo had seen. His scales gleamed with health and his muscles rippled as he moved. He carried no weapons, just his bare hands. He was still 3 times Jiwoo's size. The test of body, Draxus announced. You will fight until one cannot continue. This tests your strength and your will to endure. Jiwoo's heart pounded. She had been training on the ship with exercises Hyewan taught her. But this was different. This warrior could probably break her in half without trying. She looked up at the witness circle and saw Kale standing in the shadows behind them. He gave her a small nod. The warrior charged. Jiwoo did not try to meet his strength. She had learned long ago that fighting on someone else's terms was a losing game. Instead, she dodged. The warrior was fast for his size, but Jiwoo was faster. She rolled under his grab, came up behind him, and kicked at the back of his knee. It barely moved him, but it was a start. The fight went on. And on and on. The Valthek warrior was stronger, but Jiwoo was more flexible. He hit harder, but she moved quicker. Every time he tried to grab her, she slipped away. Every time he thought he had her cornered, she found a way out, but she could not hurt him. Her hits were like raindrops against a mountain, and he only needed to catch her once to win. Minutes passed. Then an hour, then 2. Jiwoo's muscles screamed. Her lungs burned in the thin air. Sweat poured down her face. But she kept moving. She had to. If she stopped, she lost. If she lost, Lyra and the Relthani would be in danger. The warrior was breathing hard now, too. He was not used to prey that did not give up. Every time he thought the fight was over, this small human kept moving, kept fighting. It was frustrating. It was exhausting. Finally, after 3 hours, the Valthic warrior dropped to one knee. He tried to stand, but his legs would not hold him. He looked up at Jiwoo with something like respect in his eyes. "I cannot continue," he said. The arena was silent. Then slowly, the Valthic in the audience began to stomp their feet. It was their way of showing approval. Jiwoo had not beaten the warrior through strength. She had beaten him through endurance, through refusing to give up. The witness circle looked at each other and nodded. "The first trial is past," Draxus said. "Rest now. Tomorrow the second trial begins." They gave Jiwoo a small room with a hard bed and water. Every part of her body hurt. She could barely move, but she had survived the first test. 2 more to go. The second trial began at dawn. They took Jiwoo to the volcanic wastes outside the city. The ground was black rock, still hot from ancient lava flows. They gave her a small pack with water and basic supplies, then sealed her inside a metal chamber built into the rock. "The test of spirit," Rax explained before they closed the door. 3 days alone in darkness. This tests your mind and your will. Many warriors break before the time is finished. The door closed. Darkness swallowed everything. At first, Jiwoo tried to stay active. She did exercises. She recited every poem she knew. She sang songs from her childhood. But as the hours passed, the darkness pressed in. The heat was suffocating. The silence was complete except for her own breathing. On the second day, she started to hear things. Voices that were not there. Whispers in the dark. She saw lights that did not exist. Her mind was playing tricks on her, trying to fill the empty void with something, anything. She thought about the failed colony where she had lived years ago. She remembered watching her friends die from a plague they could not cure. She remembered being alone among the graves, wondering why she had survived when so many had not. The darkness brought back all those memories, sharp and painful. On the third day, Jiwoo was not sure what was real anymore. She lay on the hot floor, her water nearly gone, her mind drifting. She saw her mother who had died when Jiwoo was young. She saw the faces of friends she had left behind on Earth. She saw the colony burning. Then she saw Lyra. The little Relthani was not really there. Jiwoo knew that. But the vision was so clear. Lyra was holding her crystal flute, looking at Jiwoo with those huge, trusting eyes. "Why did you save me?" the vision asked. "Because you needed help," Jiwoo whispered to the darkness. "Because I could. Because it was right. Even though it hurt you? Yes. Even though you might die? Yes," the vision smiled. "Then you already know what honor means. You do not need tests to prove it." When the door opened and light flooded in, Jiwoo was still lying on the floor. Rax looked down at her. "Can you stand?" Jiwoo pushed herself up slowly. Every joint protested. Her head spun, but she stood. "The second trial is past," Rax said, and there might have been respect in his voice. The third trial was different. They brought Jiwoo to a chamber filled with strange technology. Warlord Draxus himself was there, along with the witness circle. "The test of truth," Draxus explained. "Our technology will let you see what could have been. You will relive the moment you saved the Relthani child, but you will see every possible choice you could have made. Every outcome. Most warriors cannot face the weight of their choices when shown all possibilities." They placed a device on Jiwoo's head. The world disappeared. She was back in the market on Helio 7. She saw the Valthic warriors charging. She saw little Lyra running. She saw the warrior raise his pike. And then the world split into 1,000 different paths. In one path, she jumped in front of the blast and died instantly. Lyra lived, but Jiwoo's body was carried away in a bag. In another path, she froze, unable to move. Lyra died. Jiwoo lived with the memory of the child's last scream. In another, she called for help instead of acting. By the time help came, it was too late. In another, she tried to negotiate. The Valthic laughed and killed them both. Path after path, possibility after possibility, the vision showed her. Death, failure, success at terrible cost. The weight of all those choices pressed down on her mind. Finally, the vision showed her the path she had chosen. Taking the blast, nearly dying but saving Lyra. And then it showed her everything that came after. The recovery, meeting Lyra, the Valtech threat, coming to Valthos. All of it because of one split-second choice. When the vision ended, Jiwoo found herself on her knees. Draxus stood over her. "Now you have seen," he said. "In many paths you died. In others the child died. In only a few did you both live. Knowing all this, was your choice still honorable?" Jiwoo looked up at the ancient Valthech. Her voice was hoarse but steady. "Yes, why?" "Because I saw a child about to die and I had the power to stop it. In that moment there was no other choice I could live with. If that is not honor, then honor means nothing." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Draxus began to laugh. It was a deep rumbling sound that shook the walls. "The human understands what we have forgotten," he announced to the witness circle. "Honor is not about glory or strength. It is about the choices we make when no one else will act. She is Velka. She is honored warrior. All accusations are erased." Jiwoo felt relief flood through her. She had passed. It was over. But Kale stepped forward, his face grim. "There is more, Warlord. The clan leader who brought these accusations did so falsely. There was no lawful hunt. The human interfered with nothing but an illegal intimidation." Draxus's expression darkened. "Explain." 6 months had passed since Jiwoo returned from Valthos. She stood in the same spot where she had first arrived on Relthos Prime, but everything looked different now. In the center of the Crystal City, where there had once been an empty plaza, now stood a monument. It was carved from a single piece of living crystal, the same material that made up most of the Relthani buildings. The sculpture showed a human figure with arms spread wide, shielding a small Relthani child. The crystal caught the light and threw rainbows across the square. Beneath it, carved in both human and Relthani language, were the words, "Cathara, the moment that changed our world." "Do you like it?" Lyra asked, appearing beside Jiwoo. The cub had grown in the past months. She was taller now and her musical voice was getting stronger. "It is beautiful," Jiwoo said, "but I am not sure I deserve all this. Mother says you do not understand your own importance. She says humans often do not see themselves clearly." Jiwoo smiled. Lyra's mother had become a good friend over the past months. So had many other Relthani. What had started as an obligation to recover had become something else. Jiwoo was not sure when it happened, but Relthos Prime had started to feel like home. Tae-hyun walked up to join them. He looked tired but happy. "The first class of Cathara Guard graduates tomorrow. 50 Relthani who learned how to fight and defend. 6 months ago, that would have been impossible." Jiwoo still found it hard to believe. After her return from Valthos, the Relthani had done something unprecedented. They decided to create their own defense force, not for attacking others but for protecting their own people. They called it the Cathara Guard, and they asked human military advisors to help train them. "How are they doing?" Jiwoo asked. "Better than expected. They may not be as strong as Valthek or as tough as humans, but they are smart and dedicated, and they are learning tactics that use their strengths instead of trying to match other species' advantages." Tae-hyun paused. "Captain Haiwan says 3 more Relthani worlds want to start their own guard units. Your actions created a wave of change across their entire civilization." That evening there was a ceremony. Ambassador Yuna had returned, along with Captain Haiwan and several other human officials. But there were also Valthek representatives, including Kale, who had become an unexpected friend. He wore new armor now, decorated with symbols that marked him as an honored warrior. Elder Vesh stood at the center of the plaza, in front of the monument. Her voice, amplified by Relthani technology, carried across the crowd of thousands. 6 months ago, a human made a choice that seemed simple to her. She saw a child in danger and acted to save that child. But that choice rippled outward like waves in water. It changed how we see ourselves. It changed how we see other species. It changed what we believe is possible. The crowd was silent, listening. Today we gather to announce the Cathara Accord, an agreement between the Relthani, humanity, and the Valthek Dominion. We pledge to defend each other against those who prey on the weak. We pledge to stand together as the human Jiwoo stood for my granddaughter. This is not a military alliance for conquest. It is a promise of protection." Warlord Draxus stepped forward. The ancient Valthek leader looked around at the Crystal City with something like wonder in his eyes. The Valthek have always valued strength, But the human Jiwoo taught us that true strength is knowing when to use power and when to show mercy. We join this accord with honor. Ambassador Yuna spoke last. Humanity is proud to stand with friends who share our values. We may be different species, but we can choose to protect each other. That is what civilization means. After the speeches, there was a request for Jiwoo to speak. She had tried to refuse, but Lyra had looked at her with those huge eyes and asked, "Please?" Jiwoo could never say no to that look. She stood in front of the crowd, feeling awkward and out of place. She was just a cargo hauler. She was not a leader or a hero. But everyone was waiting. "I do not have fancy words," Jiwoo said. "I am not a diplomat or a warrior. I just made a choice that anyone should have made. But if my choice helped build this," she gestured at the gathered species, "then maybe the real lesson is simple. We are stronger when we protect each other. That is not human nature or Relthani nature or Valthek nature. That is just what being civilized means." The crowd erupted in approval. The Relthani sang their harmonics of joy. The Valthek stomped their feet. The humans clapped and cheered. Jiwoo felt her face turn red and quickly stepped back. Later that night, after the ceremony was over, Jiwoo found herself alone with Lyra on a quiet balcony. The young Relthani was practicing her crystal flute, and the music filled the air with gentle notes. "Are you leaving again?" Lyra asked suddenly, lowering the flute. Jiwoo had been thinking about that question for weeks. Her ship was repaired. She could go back to hauling cargo, traveling alone from world to world like she had for 5 years. But every time she thought about leaving, something held her back. "I do not know," Jiwoo admitted. "My old life seems empty now. But I am not sure what comes next." "You could stay," Lyra said hopefully. "The Cathara Guard needs teachers. Taehyun says you would be good at it. And I want to join when I am old enough. I want to be like you, like me." Jiwoo laughed softly. "Lyra, I am just someone who got lucky." "No, you are someone who chose to act when others would have looked away. That is not luck. That is courage." Lyra moved closer. "Stay, please, we need you." Jiwoo looked out at the crystal city glowing in the darkness. She thought about the past 6 months, the friendships she had made, the changes she had seen, the feeling of being part of something larger than herself. "Maybe I will stay," she said quietly. "For a while at least." Lyra's face lit up with joy. "Really? Really? But you have to promise me something. Anything. When you join the Cathara Guard, you have to promise to be smart, not reckless. Being brave does not mean being stupid." Lyra nodded seriously. "I promise." 5 years passed. Jiwoo stood in the training yard watching the new recruits run through their exercises. The Cathara Guard had grown from 50 members to over 5,000, spread across a dozen Relthani worlds. They were not the biggest military force in the galaxy, but they were respected. They had stopped 3 pirate raids and helped evacuate 2 colony worlds from natural disasters. They did not conquer or dominate. They protected. Jiwoo was not alone in the training yard. Captain Haiwan had retired from the human military and joined as a permanent instructor. Several Valthek warriors, including Kale, rotated through as visiting teachers. The different species learned from each other, finding ways to combine their strengths. "Commander Jiwoo," a young Relthani called out, "I cannot do this exercise. My arms are too weak." Jiwoo walked over. The recruit was trying to climb a rope, but Relthani upper body strength was limited. "Then do not use your arms. Use your legs. Wrap the rope around your ankle and push up. Work with your body, not against it." The recruit tried it and successfully climbed halfway up the rope. Their face showed surprise and pride. "Thank you, Commander." Jiwoo still felt strange being called Commander. She had never asked for the rank. But when the Cathara Guard formalized their structure, the Relthani Council insisted she lead the Human Training Division. Taehyun said it was because everyone trusted her. Jiwoo thought it was because she could not say no when Lyra asked her to accept. Speaking of Lyra, the young Relthani was now 15 in human years. She had grown tall and graceful, and her crystal flute playing was beautiful enough to make people cry. She was also one of the most promising new guards, showing a talent for navigation and strategic thinking that reminded Jiwoo of the mathematical genius her species was known for. "Jiwoo!" Lyra called, jogging across the training yard. She was wearing the Cathara Guard uniform now, the symbol of the shield and heart on her chest. "The council wants to see you." "There is a situation." In the council chamber, Elder Vesh looked worried. "A new species has contacted us. They call themselves the Drin. They are refugees fleeing persecution from a larger empire. They are asking for protection under the Cathara Accord. How many? Jiwoo asked. 10,000. Men, women, children. They are desperate. Jiwoo looked at the holographic image of the Drin ships. They were old and damaged, barely holding together. She saw the faces of the refugees in the scan, thin and frightened. We help them, Jiwoo said. That is what the Accord is for. The Empire pursuing them is powerful, Vesh warned. This could lead to conflict. Then we prepare for conflict. But we do not turn away people who need help. Jiwoo looked around at the council. Isn't that what you built this for? What I stood for when I saved Lyra. Vesh smiled, her old eyes twinkling. Yes, it is. I just wanted to hear you say it. The motion is approved. Cathara Guard, mobilized to provide escort and protection for the Drin refugees. As Jiwoo left the council chamber, Lyra walked beside her. Are you afraid? The young Relthani asked. Yes, Jiwoo admitted. Every time. But fear is not a reason to stop doing what is right. That is what you taught me. They walked together to the monument in the plaza. It still stood there, the crystal sculpture of the human protecting the child. Jiwoo had walked past it 1,000 times, but she still felt strange seeing it. Do you ever regret it? Lyra asked. That moment in the market? Your whole life changed because of it. Jiwoo thought about the question. She thought about her old life alone on her cargo ship, running from one meaningless job to another. Then she looked at the training yard, at the Cathara Guard preparing for their mission. She looked at Lyra, brilliant and brave and ready to change the galaxy. She looked at the Relthani and humans and Valthek working together. Not for a second, Jiwoo said. That night, the Cathara Guard ships launched to meet the Drin refugees. Jiwoo's ship, called the Shieldheart at Lyra's insistence, was in the lead. Beside her in the navigation station sat Lyra, her thin fingers dancing across the controls as she calculated the best route. Course plotted, Commander, Lyra said. We will reach them in 4 hours. Good work. Let's bring them home. As the ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jiwoo looked at her reflection in the viewport. She saw a woman who was no longer running from her past. She saw someone who had found purpose in protection, family and strangers, and home in a crystal city on an alien world. The legend of Cathara had spread across the galaxy. Dozens of species told the story of the human who took a blow for an alien child. Some versions were accurate. Some were wildly exaggerated. But the core of the story was always the same. One person making one choice that changed everything. Jiwoo did not think of herself as a legend. She was just someone who saw a child in danger and acted. But if that choice inspired others to act, to protect, to stand between the weak and those who would harm them, then maybe legends were not about being perfect. Maybe they were just about being willing to try. Approaching the refugee fleet, Lyra announced. All ships defensive formation, Jiwoo ordered. Let's show them they are safe now. The Cathara Guard ships spread out, surrounding the damaged refugee vessels in a protective shield. In the command frequencies, Jiwoo heard grateful cries from the Drin, thanking them for coming. Tell them we are glad to help, Jiwoo said. Tell them they are under the protection of the Cathara Accord now. No one will hurt them while we stand. As the combined fleet began the journey back to Relthos Prime, Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile. She had been just a cargo hauler once, trying to forget her past. Now she was a commander, a teacher, a friend to multiple species, and something she never expected. A symbol of hope. And it all started because she could not stand by and watch a child die. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, but in this one corner of space, because of one choice made in a split second, things were a little bit better, a little bit kinder, a little bit more civilized. That was enough. That was everything.